got recorded. And this will. All right. Anything else? That's a lot. That's a lot. Down. So it's I don't think any one part of it's hard, but it's kind of hard to keep track of all the moving parts. Especially when I start talking field trips in, guest speakers are coming, your project delivery will be this day. Team formation papers due this day, your structural calc packages do this. It's a scheduling term. That's our environment. So that's kind of the, hey, this is how engineers function. You get to experience it in this class. No, get your class on. We have to do a meeting on time. We have to like get our work done and deliver it on time. So all kinds of deadlines we function around. So this is all just practice at that. Questions about any of that? Like if someone was something on, ooh, I don't know what that is, then you should find out, because something like whatever that is happened last week. And I give quite a bit of grace in the first 2 weeks on you getting stuff done. So if you miss something, if you like didn't get your academic plan submitted, submit it, get it in there. At some point, I'm going to go through and zero out all the ones that didn't get submitted. Just give a 0. So you can stick for the first 2 weeks, this week too, you can still submit things. Good. All right. Maybe the talkative ones that didn't come today and the quiet ones came. I don't know. I'd like to say new stuff first, but doesn't want to progress that way. How's it want to progress? There we go. I'm going to beat this horse. Program, the 4-year transfer program. Any confusion there that we still need to clear out? That's transfer, right? Would be 2 years here. And off the university you go. Transfer students are going to be higher level math, should be, or at least working towards that higher level. A lot more general ed courses in the transfer, like just more physics and more chemistry. Those are general ed. They're not ENGR engineering, or they're not GE general engineering, right? Their chem or their writing or their math, those are general ed. So there's just a lot more of that in the transfer. All right, good. No questions lingering, sounds like. See if it, oh yeah, now it works. Then the 2-year program is more about 2 years of just job ready skills. And we're going to go to work. Right? Good. We'll leave that behind for a while. We'll revisit it later when we come to the time of the term where we schedule for next term. Yeah.
For engineering technology, what are the 3 programs?
3 programs: architectural, or think of construction. So construction preparation. So all contractors have to prepare drawings and submit those to the county, right? Have to prepare structural packages, calculations, and submit those to the county. Any construction company has to do that, whether you're septic, well driller, a home builder, an apartment builder, or a commercial builder, any kind of land development like that. Many things have to go to the county, right? So that's what the AET is. CET is civil, MET is mechanical. And as I go through the term, we'll spend a day talking about the different disciplines, but they're pretty different things. Like civil is much different than mechanical. So we'll talk about that. Good. Any other questions about anything so far? All right, where do you find classes? We went over that. But I've still got questions coming to me like I don't know what courses I should be in for this program. One of your basic guides is the website, right? Go to the website, go into academics and training, go into programs, and then choose either engineering transfer or engineering technology, and you'll see the list of courses. Again, there's not a student that normally fits that mold, right? You've either had more math or less math. You've already had writing and you articulated that, or you already had some class, right? You don't have to take that one. So that's where it comes down to you kind of looking at what's required, knowing what you've had, and then sitting down with me if you're just not sure. And I can look and see what got transcribed and what didn't. So if you think like you took writing 121 in high school and you got college credit for it, that should be here. I can see it if it's here. If it's not here, then it didn't get here. You got to talk to your high school and say, why didn't it get there? Right? So I can do that. Just reach out to me and I can do that. You can do it too. It's called a degree audit, but you have to have a program of study. So you have to have told the college, I am seeking an associate's degree in engineering technology. And once you tell the college that, then that's tagged to you. And then all the courses are loaded. Like, okay, you got to click all these off. That's called a degree audit. Right? And you can self-do a degree audit. And we'll do that at some point in lab. I'll have you do it just to see what comes up. But a lot of times your degree that you're seeking is not identified. Right? Then it's just going to come up with a general organ transfer or something, you know, and it's probably not going to look great. So at some point, once you know what you're doing, you should make it clear to the college what degree you're seeking. And if you need help with that, I am the one. Send me an email. Like, send me an email that says, hey, I'm seeking the 2-year degree. I'm seeking the engineering transfer degree. Can you make that be my program of study? And I can do it. So I can do it for you. But you can look at it and see what's what. When it comes time to register next term, you can do it. You should sit with an advisor and make sure everything's going good. We've kind of done an academic plan. I haven't looked them all over yet, and I could miss things. So it's better to sit down kind of one-on-one if you're unsure at all. If you think you got it dialed in, then just go for it. Right? You do not need an advisor to register. You can self-advise. All right. Good. All right. Support on campus and support in general. So part of my master's program was adult education. Since I'm kind of in that world, I thought, oh, maybe I should take a few classes in this since I'm teaching at the adult level. And it was all psychology. Seriously, all adult education is psychology. Like trying to understand how a student is thinking and then trying to get that student some new information. But it was fascinating, right? One of the things I learned is like what drives educational success up. So what is the leading drivers to educational success? In other words, you've identified you want to go into engineering, you're out of college, you're in a college class. What's the biggest thing you can do to build success in your program, in getting through this? The number one thing you can do is build connection with the students and institution that you're going to. In other words, don't just come to class and don't just sit there and then just go home. That's probably not the way to build success. Join a club, get to know other students that are going through the same thing you are. Those two things are like the number one thing to drive up success. It goes from like a 30% success rate to like a 60% success rate if you are engaged at school. And I like to say in a positive way, because you can engage at school in a negative way, and that's not really good. So in a positive way. So cohorts. You're in a cohort. This is your cohort. You all don't know each other yet, but this is it. Next term, you'll see fewer of them, and next term, you'll see fewer of them. But get together with each other and work on homework, talk about problems, talk about projects. You'll have to do that in this class at some point. But that is the #1 way to build success. That and to build a relationship with your instructors. In other words, ask them questions, get to know them, find out what they want, because that's what you want to give them, whatever they want, right? In a class, is it homework they want and a lot of it, and they're going to grade it, or is it not so much homework, they're not even going to look at it, they just want exams, right? So you have to learn what they want, build a connection with them, and you will be more successful. And use your resources. So here are some resources. The LSC, that's the Learning Support Center. It used to be called the tutorial area. Anyone know where that is? The LSC, Learning Support Center. No one knows?
Is that computer lab?
It does have computers in it.
It's above the library.
It is above the library, that is correct. That is also where the tutors are. And we have a tutoring staff on campus. We have tables labeled math. Some of them are even labeled, has anyone been in there yet? Usually it's labeled like math 251. Okay. Well, you go sit down there and a tutor comes wandering over and will help you, right? Or a math 65, 95 table, right? They've even had engineering tables in the past where you can walk in and sit down at a table that says engineering. Someone of it has probably a bachelor's degree in engineering is now tutoring for fun. You know, that's what geeks do, kind of thing. Physics, chemistry, all of that's up there. So you have that resource. Now, have your book with you. Have your problem out that you are interested. You can't just walk in and say, I don't understand Bernoulli's equation. They're not gonna like lecture you for an hour or a whole term on Bernoulli's, right? But if you have like a Bernoulli's problem you're working on, and then you're like, yeah, I'm struggling with, you know, this conservation of energy thing, and I have this question, they can dial it in sometimes. So try to be specific. It's going to help you. Try to have your resource with you, your book. Like when I help students from other classes that I don't teach, I said, I want to see your book. I want to see the problem out of the book. What I'm looking for is what chapter it's in, what the topic is, right? And then I can like zoom in on what part of it really is that you like talking about. Is everything. It's kinetic energy, it's static energy, it's friction, it's fluid flow, like it's a big thing. So, yeah, try to focus it for them. Peers, that's each other, super good resource. You should be working together on everything. Try to build connection with other people. Your family. So sometimes you have engineers in the family. Sometimes you have older, younger siblings that have been through stuff. Use them. Sometimes somebody runs AutoCAD in your family and you can get some help that way. Of course, instructors. And then there's agencies on campus for all kinds of things. So if you have any complications in almost any portion of your life, there are agencies on campus that can help. Everything from food insecurities to money insecurities to, you know, all kinds of transportation. There's resources. You can seek them out. So all of that is available in some form. We have laptops that we have loaned out to students for students that don't have PCs or access to that kind of technology. I think that resource is limited and there's a lot of people that want it, but we do have that kind of thing. So we have open computer labs on campus. I don't know if you've found them yet. There are computers up in the library, in the lower portion of the library. There's the main computer lab, and then there's ours, 1659, that I just leave open during the day if I'm on campus, so you can walk in there anytime and use it. Okay? Good? Any questions on any of that? Student Hub would be a spot to go if you're looking for student resources. So if you don't know where that is, I think that's upper level. Is that right? Student Hub, upper level, halfway down the wing kind of thing. Yeah. All right. So here's a couple things I want in your notebook. I want you to answer the basic question, why are you here? And you can interpret that as, okay, why am I here in GE101? Or you can interpret that as, why am I here at Mount Hood? Or you can interpret that as, you know, however you want to interpret that. But I'm just curious, what brought you here to this institution? Are you looking for a, I'll leave it blank. It's just a 1 or 2 sentence answer. Why are you here? And then the next thing would be, what's your definition of grit? Again, keep it short. Yeah.
Is this for week 2 or week 1?
This is week 2. We are in week 2. This should be behind the week 2 thingy. Yeah.
What's supposed to be in week 1 for the notebook?
Lecture 1. Anything we did in week 1 that you submitted. So what should be in there? Academic plan should be in week 1. Also submitted, right? You submitted it, but you also hard copy into week 1. What else? Those notes from Tuesday and Thursday should be in for week 1. So at the minimum, 3 things. Yeah.
Would you like our intro in there as well?
That got submitted into Blackboard, that got typed in, no. So really just what goes on in class, like these lectures, and what goes on in lab in the notebook. Yep. Good. About another minute on what your definition of grit is. All right, anybody want to share? What do you think grit is?
Picking yourself up after you have a setback.
That's pretty good. Grit absolutely deals with failure, for sure. It's a component of grit. That's good. What else? Anybody else? Yeah.
I was gonna say probably a lot of self-discipline.
Yep. Very good. Yep.
Doing stuff in what nobody wants to do.
That's very gritty. Absolutely. Examples. These are examples of components of grit. So grit requires multiple components, but these are good. What else? It's a real thing now. We used to just say, oh, you know, that person's gritty, or that's kind of a gritty thing to do, but now it's a research-based phenomenon called grit. And if you can acquire it, you're capable of doing pretty much like anything. So we've begun to like research it and study it and try to understand it. We still don't know how to teach it. So this is just my way of like, oh, okay, I can't really teach it. Can't teach grit to you. I can't teach you to come to class on time. I can't teach you any of that, right? But I can share it with you. I can give you some knowledge on it, and you can think about it, kind of thing, right? Anyone else got anything on grit? Yeah.
So, being positive mindset.
Ooh, I like the positive mindset. That's super good. Or a plan, right? Having a plan and trying to achieve it. So good. So yeah,
I'm not letting fear hold me back.
Yeah, courage and fearlessness are a big part of it. Because failure is a big part of it. Right? So, one of your assignments is to go into Blackboard, and this is in the exam and quiz area. So not in the normal submission area. The normal submission area, we can all see it. Exam and quiz area, you can't see each other's postings. And I don't want, if you want to share something that's personal about a grit story, then I want it to be personal and only I see. But you have to go in there and you have to try to think about a time that you demonstrated grit and then just tell me the story. Okay, so that's something that you have to do. Just before I get into the whole grit thing. After we go through grit, you'll have a better feeling for like what it is that I'm looking for. Okay. All right. So what is it? So it is for long-term goals. And that's very important because we can be gritty on a very short timeline. Like, you know, my car can get stuck up in the snow, and that means I got to get out and like shovel it, and I don't have any rain gear, and it's pouring, snowing, you know, I don't have what I need, but I gotta get unstuck. So I get out, I'm freezing, I'm soaked, I get my chains on, and you know, for that hour, I was pretty gritty. I had to get out of that situation. I had to get tough right? So that is grit, but that is short term. So the grit that we're talking about is very long term, very long, not even like a year. I think a year would qualify as gritty, but even longer than a year. So this says that it's a better, this grit thing, this long-term grittiness thing is a better indicator of success than both happiness and IQ. In other words, grit is better than IQ. That's super smart people, right? And it's also better than just being happy. As far as success goes, I've always said, since I've started reading about this and researching it, if I could teach you grit, I wouldn't have to teach you anything else. Because you'd be go gritty and you just go learn it yourself, right? So if I could teach you how to be gritty, long-term wise, you wouldn't need me anymore. Like, I'm just here trying to motivate you to be gritty, right? To stick it out. So I think we should learn how to teach it at some point. Like, I think there should be a class that you take that's grit 101, where it's like, it forces you into some grit. In reality, you've done it to yourself, right? Especially if you've chosen 4-year. It'll be, I say, the most gritty thing I've done in my life that's not physical. I do some physical gritty things, but that's not physical was getting a 4-year degree in engineering. That it took 4 years. That's a long time. I failed a lot. Many times I thought I was not going to continue. And many times I like kind of re-upped and went back at it, right? And finally in the end, I got it. Like, I've not done anything over a 4-year period like that, other than my master's. That was a 7-year period. That was one class that yeah.
You did your bachelor's in 4 years.
I did. Don't recommend it. Do not recommend it. 118 of us started and 4 of us got it in 4 years. And we were not the 4 smart, we were the 4 dumb. Like, that was stupid. Because it was survival, where others are taking like 2 classes and loving it, and we're taking 4 and like hating it. But I had personal reasons why it had to be 4 and done, or I was not going to make it. Like, resources for me, that was 4 years. Like, I don't know how I would have went more. So yeah, it's not a great educational process in 4 years. All right, so let's talk about it. The components of grit. Courage is one of them. So courage is essentially managing fear. So fear of failure is imperative and a predictor of success. So if you have a healthy fear of failure, that's actually good. We want that. Like, we don't really want in engineering someone who says, you know, if that fails, that bridge goes down, be that big of a deal. So yeah, we want this healthy fear of failure. The supremely gritty are not afraid to tank, but rather embrace it as part of the process. So yeah, I think somebody actually brought up courage. So conscientiousness is a big part of it. Like folks that are conscious about what they're doing, like they're thinking about it, they have extra thought into it. That's a big component of grit. So at the bottom there, in this context, it means careful and painstaking and meticulous. So just very thoughtful about what we do. It's a good component of grit, and it's a good component of engineering.
My previous job,
Yeah,
we used to say attack and overcome. Just
Yeah.
related to grit.
absolutely. Yeah. Long-term goals and endurance is a big part of this. And so I'll get a lot of stories about kind of gritty physical things. And I'm a big gritty physical person. I've done a number of marathons. It's very gritty. And yeah, a marathon is like 4 hours. That's a short time, but the preparation is much, much longer, right? It's months and can be years for some folks to do that. We just pulled the Portland Marathon last weekend, right, on Sunday. There was some super gritty folks finishing at the 7-hour mark. Like that's brutal. So there's a lot of kind of physical gritty things that go on, but the more mental ones are the ones that we like to focus on in engineering. So Duckworth is one of the big researchers in this area. If you want to read about grit, she's the one that's writing most of the stuff on grit. So she says achievement is the product of talent and effort, the latter a function of the intensity, direction, and duration of one's exertion towards a long-term goal. So it's really hard to stay focused on a long-term goal over years. And that's what you're signed up to do, right? At least 2 in the 2-year program, maybe 3 there, and at least 4 or 5 in a long-term engineering. There's going to be so many branches of opportunity to leave it as you go through, that it just takes this focus on this long-term thing. That is a big piece of grit. Resilience, optimism, somebody mentioned being positive, confidence and creativity, all of that, big part. So this is another researcher. So resilience, that's something we want. We want to be resilient to whatever this challenge is, right? It's this dynamic combination of optimism and creativity. Confidence. All right, I'm gonna keep going. I like this one, excellence versus perfection. A lot of times we think we have to be perfect, and that is not a piece that we want to actually focus on, because we're not going to be perfect. We do want to be excellent. So the difference kind of is the second paragraph there, where excellence is an attitude, not an end game. This word is this fulfillment of purpose or function closely associated with virtue. So if you know what virtue is. So this is kind of what researchers do. They break grit down into these components, right? Here's the final bullets from her first book. So where she studied grit was in the athletic area. People like Michael Jordan and other elite athletes. She was interested in what gave them the drive to do what they did, right? Not necessarily what their athletic performance was, but what gave them the drive. Like what was in each of them, right, that got them to their level. And you'll find that, the first thing is huge. They had a huge interest in whatever they were doing, right? I mean, bigger than big. Michael Jordan was all basketball, baseball players are all baseball. So on these skill related things where they are super high achievers, they have a high interest in it. They have a passion for it. So if you want to be gritty in an area, try to develop some passion for that area, right? And then the 10-year, 10,000 hour thing of deliberate practice got them to the level. They had the grit to do that. So 10,000 hours is a thing that's been around for a while now. If you put 10,000 hours into something, you will become a high achiever in that thing, right? Fortunately, engineering doesn't take that. We don't need that. We don't need 10,000 hours. You're going to get close to that in a 4 or 5 year process. But it's not going to be in one topic. It's going to be spread out. So we want some skill sets that we'll talk about in a little bit. The fourth bullet I think was interesting. Everyone she studied that had this high grit thing had a purpose beyond their self. In other words, they achieved so they could support their family that was starving, or they achieved so they could, stop these folks from dying, or they achieved, in other words, they had a purpose beyond their self, meaning, I'm going to do engineering so I can make 90K a year. Well, that purpose is really, that's not beyond myself, right? So these folks that she studied all had this purpose, like there was some other reason they were doing it other than just for themselves. So that's typically a component of very gritty situations. And they were very hopeful people. When in high school you get cut from the basketball team, do you continue to play basketball? I didn't, not in high school. I got cut my freshman year by a really mean coach. Basketball was my thing. And I was like shorter than this, right? So he just flat out told me, like, you'll never play basketball for me. And he was like the varsity coach. So I was like, I was crushed and I never played basketball again in high school. Right? So I lost hope. There's others that have had that same situation and they've just come back and keep fighting that human, right? And I believe Jordan was that way too. He got cut in high school, but he was going to play, right? So you can't lose hope. You got to just continue on down that path, knowing that that's what you want. And then you have to expect failure and you have to understand how that failure works and how you're going to respond to it. Good? That's grit. I think I have more. Oh, this is Kaufman's rule. So this is like the new thing. I don't know if you've heard about this, Kaufman's rule of 20 hours. So I got all turned on to this over the summer, read all about it, did my own 20-hour thing, and it worked. So Kaufman says you don't need 10,000 hours to learn a skill. You need 20 hours. 20 hours of dedicated practice. Got all turned on to this in summer and thought, okay, what do I want to do? What do I want to do that is a skill? And I'm going to log 20 hours. And I want it to be hard, but not like crazy hard, right? It's supposed to be a skill. So I did not do this, but an example of that would be like juggling. Who knows how to juggle? Juggler. I don't know how you learned, but I had to learn for baseball when I was in college, which I thought was interesting. But I know how to juggle since then. And I learned in my dorm how to juggle because he said you can't even try out unless you can juggle. That's what he said day one. I'm like, and then I was like, and I didn't log my hours, but I felt like it was 20 hours before I could juggle, right? So that's the kind of skill we're talking about. This summer I learned to wing foil. So I don't know if you don't know what wing foiling is, you can. And I put 20 hours into it. So, and I can now. I'm a long time windsurfer, so I'm a long time sailing, so I understood that portion of it. But the whole foil thing is new, and the whole wing thing is new. And it was the full 20 hours before I could actually do the skill. Like get up on foil, go across the river, jive the thing,
foil, bring it back and forth, pretty comfortably. But it was 20 hours, like, of dedicated practice. It would be some hours of dedicated practice. Anyway, the good news is I'm not gonna make you do it. But this summer, man, I'm making my GE101 student, they're gonna have to learn something in 20 hours. They're gonna have to walk their time. So you could do that. Anything you wanna learn, ukulele, right? Any skill set like that. I think Kaufman used the ukulele in his TED Talk. So if you want to see it, you just look up Kaufman 20-hour skill. So he is fighting the 10,000 hours to be excellent and the best at something. But just to learn a skill, and we have a lot of skilled engineers, a lot of
Does Kaufman say anything about the limit of, like, over what time period those 20 hours happen?
He does. He says 45 minutes a day.
So it's like,
It's consistent, Yep.
that's like it did
Yep.
40 minutes a week.
Yeah, and so for wing foiling, I can only get out of the week. So mine was much more hit and miss, but didn't know how much 20 hours would work. And honestly, at 10 hours, I was not functioning still very well at wing foiling. I could stand up, I had not got it up on foil yet. Super frustrated, pretty much almost quit, right? And I was like, oh God, I gotta be gritty or something. I have to stick with the 20 hours. And then at like hour 13, I broke through on that scale. And then it was just a quick progression at 7. But I would just go out 1 hour at a time as my time. So, but he says 45 minutes. Consistent. Yeah. So it's, it all depends on kind of also what your previous skill set is as to what you're learning. So I think that's important. I have sailing experience. It would be different for you if you've never stood on a board in the water or sailed a boat. Then you would have a much bigger learning curve. I don't know how the 20 hours would go. Yeah.
I did a study, a few years ago on some of the different habits.
Yeah.
Use of making 20 minutes and then habits.
Yep. So what are some of the skill sets you're gonna learn in engineering? How do you?
Task planning,
How to study. Yeah.
task planning, sort of like long-term.
Yeah. So you'll do project management stuff. Yep. What else? Organization. Yeah. What about our tools? What are we gonna use? Yeah, so measuring devices, effective communication, we're gonna be learning that all the way through. What else? Tools, what are our tools in our toolbox for engineers? CAD, we're gonna learn AutoCAD. That right there is a good 20 hours, like 20 hours of AutoCAD, you'll be functioning, like that's pretty good. My GE115 is like 2 hours, it's like 4 hours a week, should have about 40 hours at the end of the term. But by half term, 115, those students are flying. Yeah, they're doing really well. So that's a perfect 20-hour thing. SolidWorks 20-hour thing, right? Statics, your study of forces at rest, definitely a 20-hour thing. You put 20 solid hours in learning statics, you'll know a lot. This is not to get you to excellence. This is just a competent, functioning skill set. Like I am no pro. Look at wing foiling. They're like flipping the damn thing in the air, and they're riding big ocean waves. And they're riding them in the rivers now up north in Canada. It's crazy, right? I'm not doing that, but I can bring it up on foil and ride it across the river and bring it up, right? So definitely foiling. Good. 20 hours.
So I think, yeah, this is the grit thing. We're out of time. So we will take the grit test on Thursday.
We're done. Have a good couple days. You're in lab. See you in a bit. I didn't want to joke like I didn't want to fail as a joker, but I can go. And I used to be able to like look at you when I that's what we have to do in baseball. Is we have to be able to look at the coach and joke. Park. But it's fun. Yeah. You ever played the two ball game? Two baseball?
Yeah.
Before? Yeah, I like that too. It's like juggling. Hey. No more questions. No more? No.
Okay. But let this get out there. I'm gonna say I put some you guys change your.
Yeah.
I just want to switch.
Yeah, you'll be way ahead of the game.
So that I can.
Because I can use a lot of. Then you'll have to pick a.
Yeah.
Okay. You, like, for example, you will have taken, ACDC fundamental, and I had an ACDC class, but I'll have you put that really on training. Or you like doing circuits and. It's way more.
So if you want to switch,
It'll be it'll be a year of course. That you'll have to take, but it won't be full.
okay, all right,
Yeah.
thank you.
Does that make sense? Yeah.
Is that what they're saying that should get?
Talk to me. Who do you have for that?
Uh,
I'm okay with it in my class.
yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm in 112, but I'm also.
Some math instructors won't allow it because you could be doing other things.
Yeah.
So, talk to your math instructor.
Okay, thank you.
They're the control on that.
Like, yeah, I like, how it's like, it's all kind of,
Yeah.
but like, it's
Oh, I think you don't-
yeah, it's been like a year or two since I've really done anything, and I feel pretty rusty, so like. But I.
GE115. If you did, it would be super easy for you. It's gonna come back, it's super fast. And then you're just gonna do it through the. You get it easy. So, I do it because it's a new version, the version got changed probably 3 times since. So it would you'd become familiar with that. Graphical system. I mean, the guts are still on it. They are doing it to work. But the new interface and the new tools and palettes and all that. Is become. So, yeah, I would say either one is fine, because you could get familiar with it just by dedicating 20 hours to come to the lab, right? And just play with it. Do that. So whatever you want to do. Okay. Yeah. If you don't want to take it, talk to me, because we can win that. All right. Yeah.
It's totally not. Since they're really like after, but I'm actually.
Oh,
So
so you were already registered for it then last week.
yeah, but I wasn't out.
Yeah. So well, I think it's good today, and then we talk after. Yeah. Okay. Good? Yeah. What's up?
Oh.
Baseball. Uh-oh.
And who wants to know what your past is? I didn't get a hat. A big head, so is he going medium, large, extra large? Yeah.
No, it's large. So that's.
Sweet. What's his name?
Here, or here.
Is he new? Last year, because I think before that. He was not that. Myself a few times, because honestly, we had some kids that threw well. And I said, "Dude, you just want to watch them just act like this guy, game, check it in your game, just watch them grow. I usually show up 30 minutes and just act like a scout, right? But it makes a high school kid. Anyway, cool, that'd be awesome. So when do we get the fall ball schedule? Already out.
We're actually
Like out.
halfway through it.
Really?
We have a scrimmage this weekend on Sunday, right?
Oh, are you able to?
It's here, it's just inter squad, and then next week we have double header at Portland University.
UOP?
Yeah.
They got turf?
Yeah.
Yeah. Cool. Cool. With them?
No.
With somebody else?
Other.
Yeah. Fun. Super fun. Miss it.
What's your office number?
2579.
Person.
But I'm in lab most of the time, like literally. I think when I had to do my office hours, I put 60 and 59 down for my office hours.
Well,
So
you told me at last week it was 4:30.
4:30 today?
Yeah.
Yeah, I just stay in lab, but after lab.
Okay.
Lab gets over at 4:30 today, so that's kind of,
Meet you in lab then?
yeah. I have a couple other students coming too.